Have you ever noticed how some people don't need to shout to break you down? They don't slam doors, throw things, or raise their voices. Instead, with a single exhausted sigh, they lock eyes with you and quietly say, "After everything I've done for you." And in that moment, it hits you like a silent punch to the gut. You find yourself questioning your every move. Did I overreact? Was I too harsh? Am I actually the bad one here? But stop right there. Because what just happened isn't an innocent moment of hurt feelings. No, you've unknowingly stepped into one of the most insidious traps a narcissist can lay. A trap designed not to hurt your body or your heart, but to quietly suffocate your clarity and self-trust. It's not love. It's not kindness. It's emotional manipulation, dressed up to look like concern. And the danger lies in how subtle it is, how it slowly tightens around you, one sigh, one disappointed glance at a time. If you don't spot it for what it is, you'll carry that guilt with you like a chain you can't see but always feel. And worse, you'll start thinking it's normal. But not today. Because in this video, we're going to expose one of the narcissist's favorite tricks, the silent guilt trap, the one they use to take control of your mind, your emotions, and your peace of mind without ever raising their voice. And most importantly, I'll show you how to break free from it. Not with rage, not with endless explanations, but with calm, stoic clarity. You don't need to fight their storm. You don't need to beg for understanding. You only need to see the trap for what it is and walk away with your power intact. It always starts so subtly, not with an argument, not with a threat. Just a small, quiet moment where you dare to say no. And instantly the air in the room changes. You can feel it, can't you? They don't shout, they don't call you names. But they pause, they pull back. And then comes the look, not one of anger, but of heavy, wordless disappointment. Wow, I didn't expect this from you. After everything I've done, I thought you were different. And there it is, the weapon disguised as a wounded whisper, the unspoken guilt bomb. See, the clever ones don't need to attack you. The smartest manipulators make you attack yourself. They don't hold you down with chains. They use your empathy as a leash, not to bind you to them physically, but to keep you emotionally trapped inside a cage they built around your kindness. And here's the worst part. It works. It works because good, kind-hearted people like you, are wired to avoid hurting others. You've probably spent your life being taught to be generous, to be fair, to give people the benefit of the doubt. When conflict rises, your instinct isn't to fight. It's to explain, to fix, to smooth things over. But here's the brutal truth the ancient Stoics understood long before psychology gave it a name. What's kind to others can become cruel to yourself if you fail to set boundaries. When you allow guilt to replace logic, when you let someone else's hurt feelings dictate your reality, you hand over the steering wheel of your life. And that, my friend, is not compassion. That's control, carefully disguised as virtue. Marcus Aurelius once warned us, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. And in this situation, it goes even deeper. You don't need to waste your life trying to prove you're not selfish or heartless or cruel just because someone else feels offended by your freedom. Their feelings are theirs to manage, not your burden to carry, and this is where the narcissist thrives. They flip the story in an instant. You set a boundary, suddenly you're cold. You ask for space, you're needy. You pull away, and now they're the victim. It's a silent contract you never agreed to, but somehow you find yourself living it. Your role is to feel bad so they can feel powerful. And what makes this strategy So dangerously effective is they never outright demand control. They make you give it up willingly, silently, repeatedly. How? By convincing you that saying no makes you a bad person. Over time, they train your conscience to turn against you so they don't have to. And this, right here, is why Stoicism isn't just an old philosophy in dusty books. It's a survival skill in a world where subtle manipulation is everywhere, and that's exactly why Stoicism matters. Because when guilt is used against you like a weapon, you need a defense system. A way to pause, to step back, and ask yourself one simple, powerful question. Is this guilt truly mine, or was it carefully engineered to keep me in line? When you're dealing with someone who turns your kindness into a tool for control, the most revolutionary act you can commit isn't explaining yourself. It isn't defending your reasons or trying to win their understanding. No, it's remaining calm, unapologetic, and walking away with your dignity fully intact. Because here's a truth worth remembering. Your kindness is not the problem. It never was. The problem is what happens when your kindness gets manipulated into silence. In the next part of this journey, we're going to uncover how narcissists cleverly use guilt like a mirror, not to reflect your flaws, but their own. They twist your empathy, your good intentions, and your natural instinct to be fair into a tool against you. And a stoic mind, sharpened and steady, can cut right through that illusion. You see, while some people fight with shouting and insults, narcissists play a different, far more sophisticated game. They don't need to tell you you're wrong. They don't need to attack. All they do is withdraw, fall silent, maybe shed a well-timed tear. And suddenly, you become your own executioner. You replay every word in your head. Did I come across too harsh? Could I have handled it differently? Was I being too selfish? But this isn't healthy self-reflection. It's not wisdom. It's not growth. It's confusion. Confusion planted like a seed by someone whose only goal is to keep you doubting yourself so you won't have the strength to walk away. And this is the key to their strategy. A narcissist doesn't need to win the argument. They only need you to question yourself enough to stay. It's a psychological trap, dressed up as sensitivity. They turn silence into a weapon, magnify their hurt, and imply you've caused harm. Not because you actually did something wrong, but because you dared to reclaim control. So let's be crystal clear. Setting a boundary is not an act of cruelty. Saying no is not an attack. Disagreeing with someone is not betrayal. Yet a narcissist will twist those things into accusations. They'll say, "You've changed. You used to care. I can't believe you're treating me this way." And they won't shout it. No, they'll say it softly, calmly, in a way that sounds almost reasonable, maybe even a little sad. That's the trap. They've studied human nature. They know aggression pushes people away, but guilt? Guilt keeps people in place. Guilt is sticky. It clings to your mind. It whispers to your heart. It doesn't force you. It convinces you. You're the bad one if you walk away. And once you believe that, the rest is easy. You'll start chasing their approval, reshaping your boundaries, bending your values, and calling it love. You'll forget the line between genuine care and self-betrayal, but here's where the Stoic truth slices through the fog. Emotions are not facts. Guilt is not proof of wrongdoing. Sometimes guilt is nothing more than a smoke signal, not of your failure, but of someone else's manipulation. As Epictetus taught, people are not disturbed by things, but by the view they take of them. And narcissists are masters at changing your view. They'll frame their needs as emergencies, They'll recast your independence as selfishness. And before you realize it, you've stopped living your life and started living in service to their comfort. But you are not responsible for managing someone else's emotional reaction to your truth. Read that again. You are not the villain for refusing to be controlled. In fact, the first true act of courage you might take in years is choosing not to betray yourself for the sake of someone else's fragile ego. And here's a sobering thought. The reason this trick works so well, the reason it sinks so deeply, is because you actually care. You're not cold. You're not numb. You're not the type to enjoy hurting anyone. You value loyalty. You try to be fair. You don't want to be the person who walks away leaving someone else feeling abandoned because you know what that pain feels like, but therein lies the trap. And that's the tragic irony, isn't it? The very thing that makes you good, your kindness, your empathy, your willingness to care, is exactly what a narcissist hunts for. They don't seek out people who are cruel or selfish. No, those people are of no use to them. Narcissists target the kind-hearted, the ones who have a generous soul but lack strong boundaries, the ones who feel a crushing weight of guilt when they say no, the ones who confuse pleasing others with genuine kindness. And this is where Stoicism steps in like a lantern in a dark room. It doesn't tell you to become cold or unkind or detached from others. It simply teaches you to see clearly, to realize that without boundaries, your virtues can be turned against you. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The mind that is anxious about future events is miserable." And when you look closely, what is guilt if not anxiety dressed in different clothes? It's the fear of losing someone's approval, the terror that we might lose love, connection, or a sense of belonging if we disappoint someone. And so, without meaning to, we comply. Not because it feels right, but because we're afraid of the labels, afraid of being called mean, selfish, cold, heartless. But here's what the Stoics knew, and what so many of us forget. A meaningful, principled life isn't built on other people's approval. It's built on inner clarity and conviction. You don't need to be aggressive to stand your ground. You don't need to hurt anyone to protect your peace. But you do need to be painfully clear about who you are, what you stand for, and what you will no longer tolerate. Because if you don't set your boundaries, make no mistake, someone else will. And they won't set them based on your well-being. They'll build them around their own control. That's the hard truth. You are not, and never will be, obligated to sacrifice your peace just because someone else feels uncomfortable in the presence of your strength. That discomfort they feel, that guilt they try to slip into your hands, that's not your burden. It's their strategy. And it works because we've been raised by society, by family, sometimes even by religion, to believe that being nice is the highest virtue. But here's the cold, clear wisdom Stoicism offers. Nice without a backbone isn't virtue, it's submission. It's the slow, quiet erasure of yourself in the name of keeping the peace. The Stoic path is different. It's not about being endlessly pleasant. It's about being just. You treat others with fairness, but equally, and this is where most people falter, you treat yourself with fairness too. That means protecting your time, your energy, and your emotional well-being, even if someone else doesn't approve, even if it makes them uncomfortable. So, if you've ever found yourself walking away from a conversation feeling inexplicably drained or questioning what you did wrong when you know you spoke your truth, now you understand why. It isn't because you're broken. It's because your empathy was never meant to be twisted into a leash. And in the next chapter, we'll uncover exactly how a Stoic responds to this kind of manipulation. Not by reacting emotionally, not by arguing or defending, but by setting boundaries that are calm, firm, and unshakable. You see, a narcissist's most dangerous weapon isn't their anger. It's your reaction. The moment they sense you're emotionally rattled, whether you're confused, defensive, or desperate to explain yourself, they know they've won. That's why the Stoic response isn't to plead or to argue or to desperately seek their understanding. It's to stay calm, clear, and utterly unmoved. So how does one do that? Let's break it down. First, calm. Because chaos is their playground. Narcissists thrive in emotional turbulence. They want you to be upset because when you're emotional, you're easier to manipulate. You're easier to mold. But the Stoic doesn't take the bait. They breathe. They pause. They observe without rushing to react. They remember the wisdom of Seneca. You always own the option of having no opinion. Just because someone throws chaos at you doesn't mean you have to catch it. Second, clarity. Because confusion is where manipulators hide their motives. They twist facts, resurrect old arguments, and blur the lines of what actually happened. They love to keep you lost in a fog where you no longer trust your memory. But a Stoic clears the fog. They return to the facts. They ask themselves, what truly happened? What did I say? What did I mean? If necessary, they write it down. They stay grounded in what is real, not in what emotion tries to dictate. Because clarity kills confusion, and confusion is the narcissist's most reliable cover. And third, remain unmoved, because silence, when it's steady and unshaken, is a quiet kind of power. When the narcissist sees you're no longer chasing, no longer bending, no longer explaining your worth, they lose interest. Because the truth is, the thing they feed on is your reaction. When you take that away, when you refuse to be pulled into their storm, you reclaim the one thing they fear most, your sovereignty. And that's precisely why staying calm, clear, and unmoved matters so much, because the one thing a manipulator craves more than anything else is your reaction. The moment you stop giving it, you break the cycle. You take your power back. But let's be clear, remaining unmoved doesn't mean you don't care. It doesn't mean you've grown cold or indifferent. It means you've finally stopped handing over your peace like it's up for negotiation. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, and all of us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That's Stoicism in motion, right there. It's not about fighting for someone's approval. It's not about trying to change them or make them understand. It's about letting the storm pass while you remain standing, refusing to be swept away by it. And let's address a worry that probably crossed your mind. You might wonder, does this make me heartless? Am I becoming too detached? But here's the truth. Stoic detachment isn't coldness. It's clarity. It's not about shutting people out. It's about refusing to let toxic people get in. Not into your mind, not into your emotions, and certainly not into your peace. You're not being cruel by setting limits. You're not punishing them by walking away from manipulation. What you're doing is protecting yourself, calmly and with integrity. There's a powerful moment in every encounter with a narcissist when the real battle begins. It's not a battle over facts. It's not even about feelings. It's about your right to draw a line in the sand and stand by it. You'll say something simple like, "I can't do this anymore." And immediately, the storm begins. The questions, the guilt trips, the twisted logic. After everything I've done for you, now I'm the bad guy. You're really just going to walk away like this? And in that moment, it feels like you're suddenly on trial, accused, cornered, cross-examined. Every word you say is used against you. But here's what the Stoics knew, even centuries ago. You owe no one an explanation for your boundaries, especially to someone who has repeatedly violated them. Boundaries aren't acts of war. They aren't cruel or aggressive. They are simple, quiet declarations of self-respect. They say, "I exist, I matter, I have limits, and I will honor them." But narcissists, by their very nature, don't respect boundaries. They negotiate with them. They push, test, and twist them, looking for weak spots. And the more you explain, the more they distort. That's why a Stoic doesn't get drawn into the debate. They don't waste their energy trying to convince or win the argument. They simply stop bleeding energy into battles that were never meant to be fought. So how do you do that? Let's break it down. First, don't explain. Declare. The mistake so many people make when setting a boundary is thinking they need permission. You don't. You never did. Saying things like, "I'm not comfortable with this. This is not okay with me. I need space." These aren't conversation starters. They're closing statements. But here's where most people get caught in the trap. The moment you add an explanation, "Because I'm tired," "Because I have anxiety," "Because I don't want to upset you," you're no longer setting a boundary. You're opening a negotiation. And narcissists are master negotiators. "Oh, but you weren't too tired last week. That's not anxiety. You're being dramatic. I'm not even upset. Why are you making this such a big deal?" And just like that, you've lost control of the conversation. Epictetus warned us about this dynamic long ago. Who is your master? Anyone who has power over the things you seek or avoid. If you're chasing their approval, they own you. If you fear their reaction, they control you. But the moment you state your truth, calmly, firmly, and without seeking their validation, you're free. And that's the heart of it. The moment you stop chasing approval, stop explaining, and stop reacting, you quietly reclaim a power they were hoping you'd never discover. Which brings us to the next essential principle. Second, silence is a weapon. Use it with intention. You don't always need a clever comeback or a dramatic mic drop. In fact, sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Because here's what narcissists crave: your engagement. They need you to stay emotional, defensive, flustered, or chasing their approval. That's how they stay in control. But when you fall silent, when you refuse to flinch, when you no longer justify, when you simply leave them alone with their own manipulative tactics, they hate it. They're left standing there with the performance, but no audience. And for them, that's unbearable. A Stoic doesn't argue. They don't shout. They don't plead for understanding. They simply take a step back and observe. I've said what I needed to say. I don't feel the need to explain it further. This conversation is over for me. Not said in anger, not spat through clenched teeth, but calmly, clearly, and finally. That is strength. Third, boundaries are meant to be kept, not negotiated. If someone truly values you, if they care about your well-being, they'll respect your boundary, even if they don't fully understand it. That's what real connection looks like. But narcissists don't see boundaries as lines to respect. They see them as invitations to push, twist, and manipulate further. They'll throw out lines like, "So what? I guess we're done now?" Or, "Wow, so you're ghosting me?" Figures. This is why nobody sticks around you. None of this is truth. It's bait. It's a hook designed to reel you back in. And your job, as a Stoic and as a person who values your peace, is not to bite. Seneca warned us long ago, "No man is free who is a slave to his emotions." And guilt, my friend, is an emotion, one that narcissists are masterful at triggering. But here's the truth. Guilt isn't always a compass pointing to right and wrong. Sometimes it's just the residue of self-betrayal. It's a sign you've spent too long prioritizing someone else's comfort over your own truth. You are not selfish for protecting your peace. You are not cold for asking for space. You are not cruel for refusing to be controlled. What you are, finally, is awake. Fourth, they don't have to understand. You just have to mean it. This might be the hardest pill to swallow, but it's also the most liberating. Clarity matters far more than consensus. Your boundaries don't need a group vote. They don't need applause, validation, or permission. They only need one thing: you standing behind them with quiet certainty. And when you do, if they rage, cry, withdraw, or try to shame you, let them. Their reaction isn't your responsibility. Your only duty is to stay in alignment with what you know to be right. And yes, sometimes that means walking away from people who were never meant to walk beside you in the first place. Now here's where it gets especially ruthless. When every other tactic fails, when you stop apologizing, stop explaining, stop chasing, and stop dancing to their emotional tune, the narcissist reaches for their final, most insidious move. They become the victim. Not because they genuinely are, but because if they can't make you feel guilty for what you've done, they'll try to make you feel guilty for who you've become. It's a twisted role reversal. Predator becomes prey. You set a boundary. You abandoned me. You walked away from emotional abuse. You were the abusive one. You stopped answering manipulation with empathy. Suddenly you're cold, ruthless, ungrateful. It's a performance, a carefully crafted act meant to win sympathy, designed to isolate you from others and structured to pull the spotlight and control back to them. And this isn't a new tactic. Even Marcus Aurelius faced this in politics, in court, and within his own family. He wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." In other words, don't sink to their level. Don't fight smear with smear. Don't respond to lies with more drama. Stand tall. Stay silent. Let your character do the speaking for you. Because when a narcissist plays the victim, it's never about truth. It's about reclaiming control through pity. And why does this strategy work so well? Because human beings are wired to protect the vulnerable. We're drawn to rescue, to empathize, to give second chances. And the narcissist knows this better than anyone. So instead of threatening you, they fall apart. They confess how lost they are without you. They talk about their trauma. They cry about how everyone leaves them. And slowly, you start to feel like the bad guy. Not because you've done anything wrong, but because they've weaponized your own compassion against you. And this emotional performance wrapped in vulnerability is their final, most deceptive trick. It's emotional blackmail disguised as pain. And if you're not careful, you'll fall for it. But you don't have to. Seneca once warned, "He who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than is necessary." And that's exactly what guilt does here. It makes you suffer twice. It makes you ache for a decision you had every right to make. From a Stoic's perspective, when faced with false victimhood, there's a simple, unshakable principle. You judge the act, not the emotion. A narcissist's tears might be real in that moment. The sadness they display might feel genuine, but those emotions don't erase the larger pattern. A few visible moments of hurt can't wash away months or even years of manipulation. And this is precisely where Stoic detachment becomes essential. You must learn to see clearly without being pulled by emotional currents, to acknowledge their pain without allowing it to override your principles. Their sorrow is not your responsibility. Their loneliness is not your fault. The tragic stories they tell may tug at your heartstrings, but your path, your choices, must be led by your reason, not their rehearsed sadness. So then, how do you respond? How do you stay grounded while remaining compassionate? The answer is quiet strength. You stay firm, but kind. You say less, not more. You don't argue. You don't justify. And most importantly, you don't reopen doors that you had to close for your own survival. When they play the victim and the tears come, here's what you can calmly say. I wish you well, but this isn't healthy for me. I understand you're hurting. I am too. But this is my decision. I won't continue this conversation. Please take care of yourself. I need to take care of mine. And that's not coldness. That's what real emotional maturity looks like. And the reason narcissists hate it so much? Because once you stop feeling guilty, once you refuse to be shamed, and once you can no longer be lured back by pity, you become untouchable. At that point, you've seen the pattern for what it is. You've survived the manipulation. You've said no. And this time, you meant it. And now comes the moment narcissists dread most. You no longer need their approval. You no longer explain. You no longer shrink yourself down to fit the cramped, suffocating box of their comfort zone. Because when you finally choose truth over guilt, clarity over chaos, and peace over performance, you win. Not in some dramatic movie-ending way. There won't be fireworks, no applause, no grand cinematic exit. The victory here is a quiet one, but don't let its silence fool you. It's powerful. You stop reacting. You begin responding. You pause instead of panicking. You observe instead of absorbing. And in doing so, you step fully into your Stoic strength. Marcus Aurelius put it perfectly. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. Your freedom doesn't begin when the narcissist leaves you alone. It begins when their behavior no longer defines your worth. You stop chasing revenge. You stop wishing for validation. The old version of you might have longed to prove a point, to make them see what they did, to make them feel your pain. But now, you realize you don't need that, because peace isn't found in punishment. It's found in presence. It's found in knowing you walked away with your dignity intact, even if your heart was in pieces. As Seneca wisely said, a wise man is content with himself. That doesn't mean you won't feel pain. It means you no longer need someone else's pain to heal your own. That's emotional independence. That's the Stoic victory. Because you reclaim the one thing they were trying to steal from you all along. Your mind. A narcissist doesn't just seek to control your choices. They want to colonize your thoughts, to make you question your memory, your motives, even your sanity. But when you learn to trust your perception again, when you believe your instincts, when you walk away without needing to second-guess yourself, You take back the one thing that makes every other kind of freedom possible, your clarity. And once your mind is yours again, truly yours, something beautiful happens. In that calm, unmistakable clarity, you begin to rebuild. Slowly, quietly, powerfully. No loud declarations, no dramatic announcements. No need to broadcast your healing to those who once thrived on your pain. The future you're creating now, it's built in silence. You don't need to post about it. You don't need them to see it. You don't need their acknowledgement or their permission. All you have to do is keep moving, read more, reflect deeper, build something for yourself. Go to the gym. Learn a new skill. Surround yourself with people who nourish your spirit, not those who drain it dry. Because narcissists rule through distraction, they stir chaos to keep you off balance. But Stoics transform their lives through quiet, unshakable discipline. And the life you're about to build, the peace, the inner strength, the steady confidence, will speak so much louder than any argument ever could. It won't need defending. It will simply exist. And those who tried to break you will have no choice but to watch. Let's leave you with this final reflection. You were never too much. You were simply too awake to stay controlled forever. You don't need revenge. What you need is to remember who you were before anyone manipulated your heart, twisted your intentions, or made you question your worth. You don't need closure from them. You need clarity from within. So, stay grounded, stay silent, and when they inevitably come knocking again, because they often do, don't open the door. Don't even explain why. Just smile to yourself and walk away, like a Stoic who's realized there's nothing left to prove, because at some point, you stop trying to fix them. You stop replaying old conversations in your mind, trying to find the perfect words you wish you'd said. You stop wondering if you could have explained it better, because deep down, you finally face the truth. Some people were never looking for understanding. They were only looking for control, but you've outgrown that game. You've seen the mask slip, you've learned their tactics, and now you walk away, not with bitterness, not with fear, but with something far more powerful. Silence. You don't owe anyone a battle to earn your peace. You don't need permission to start healing. You just need the courage to choose what's right over what's easy. And if that means disappointing a narcissist, so be it. As Epictetus said, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding the things that lie beyond our control. And now, as you reclaim your voice, your mind, and your boundaries, freedom is no longer just a concept. It's becoming the person you meet in the mirror every single morning. Not perfect, but free. So stay grounded, stay clear, stay stoic. And if this video helped you in any way, if it helped you break free from toxic manipulation, or even just reminded you that you're not alone in this silent battle, don't keep it to yourself. Like this video, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to the channel for more wisdom, perspective, and stoic clarity every week. And if you're walking away from this video a little stronger, a little clearer, a little more unshakable than before, type the word SHIELD in the comments, because we see you, and you are not alone. Until next time, stay grounded, stay clear, stay stoic.